Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. The weekend is almost here. And along with that, getting closer to Valentine's Day. Hope you guys have come up with some good ideas for your significant other on what to get him, her, or other, and put that into action. So, today's video, I wanted to address, as always, subject matter for people over 40 and in particular over 60 like myself. I figured a good subject to touch on would be, in the current climate, politics and the impact it has on people of older age, over 40 in particular, and if you're like me, over 60, what's the impact? What are we doing? What's going on? You know, in the post-Trump era, being elected now 3 weeks, what's going on? Regardless if you are for him, against him, neutral, if you have been paying attention, if you have not been paying attention, life happens for almost every one of us. In fact, everybody, right? So if you're that person that has an opinion that the previous administration was better for your life than the current one, if you think that the current administration is better than the previous one, if you're someone who has no opinion, if you're someone who follows what's going on closely, if you're someone who does not follow closely, if you're in the middle or anything in between, what's going on? That's what I wanted to talk about. 3 weeks into his new 4-year tenure, the post-Trump era, I believe that American politics has taken a dramatic turn, regardless where you lie in the spectrum. But I feel, and these are just my personal opinions, you may agree or disagree, that, every politician, regardless if they're from the left, the right, they all seem to have a message. They all seem to have a promise. They all seem to have a vision. But the question is, do they expect us to believe that? Do we expect them to believe us? So today I want to discuss a little bit about, all these things in the aftermath of Trump being in office for, 3 weeks now. I want to explore how politicians, are shaping their statements. How do they expect us and America in general to trust them? And most importantly, how this is impacting folks over 40. And again, specifically, if you're over 60 like myself, how is that affecting the backbone of the country's economy? Where we were, where we are, where we're going, the workforce, the culture, again, older folks who are approaching retirement age, just a bunch of stuff. So I figured what a better way to start the weekend or end the week with a little conversation about that. My opinion, there is a political rebranding, the era of performative politics, if you will. Politicians have shifted their messaging. Some are distancing themselves from the current administration. Others are doubling down on Trump's ideology. And every candidate is trying to basically sell themselves as the solution to the division that's going on in America. And I believe that there is a division in America. So, some examples could be like politicians say, we must heal America, and others are saying we must stop this radical left or right, from destroying this country. Now, the question, as far as I'm concerned, is, well, if both sides are claiming to be the savior of our country, the savior of the over 40, 50, 60 people, the younger people, everybody, if both sides are claiming to be the savior, then why does the average American feel, sick about all this? Why does the average American still feel stuck in what's going on? Is there a trust deficit? My opinion, regardless of where you lie, regardless if you follow politics or not, or somewhere in between, there's a trust deficit. There's a definitely declined trust in government. I believe that's huge. Okay, I don't know what I did here, but anyway, everywhere you look, and again, I don't know how much everybody follows. What's your opinion? Love to hear from you guys, by the way. Love to hear, see your comments, and love to address them, have a conversation. But, surveys are showing that the trust in political institutions has reached historic lows. It doesn't matter what side you're in, or left or right or in the middle. Politicians, they keep making promises and they rarely materialize. I feel as a 60-year-old everyday Joe that it doesn't matter who you support anymore. And I strongly believe the older folks, 40, 50, 60, in most cases, they're so stuck in their beliefs, they refuse to shift and change their mindset. And that's a major problem. It's a major problem for our age group, and I believe it affects the younger age groups, that being our children and grandchildren and what have you. I have said in many videos that I make that the world is changing by the second like crazy. And if you don't admit that you have to change with it, if you just, think that recalling all the good old days, a lot of older people my age, and I hate to say this because I can't believe I'm that age where people say, oh, the younger generation, oh, back in the day, we used to do it. You see videos on TikTok, on YouTube, everywhere, Instagram, of, funny videos of older people claiming how it used to be and how it is. That's great, but you got to move forward. You got to move with the times. And in my opinion, younger age group people bring a lot to the table. They bring so much to the table. And the fact that older people like me dismiss that, I think it's an injustice to ourselves as well as to them. So, I feel that, again, politicians, and I don't care what side they're on, they just keep making promises. And that's it. They never come to fruition. In fact, it seems almost that they recycle promises, especially for older people like myself. Oh, we're going to do better health care. We're going to lower your taxes. We're going to have safer communities. We're going to bring jobs back. Does that all sound familiar to you guys? And these things are like neutral. Like, it doesn't really, you don't have to be, on the right or the left or in the middle. The message is pretty generic. It kind of hits everybody. Better healthcare. Who doesn't want better healthcare, right? Lower taxes. Who doesn't want lower taxes, right? Safer communities. Same thing. Bringing jobs back. These are all things that we're all interested in, right? Does it sound familiar? It's the same. They've been the same talking points for decades now. I'm 60 years old. I was not always, a person who watched the news. When I was younger, I had different interests than reading the news, be honest. Depending on what time of my life, when I was much younger, my concern was how to make a couple of bucks and go and get girls and go and have a good time and party and this and that. Then as I got a bit older, oh man, I got to get a job and possibly get a car. Then I got older, oh man, I got to see if I can save some money to possibly buy a house. Then before you know it, you get married and you start, building a family, and everything changes, right? Everything changes. It's a natural progression. You can't stop it. As you age, your interests change. You can stay young at heart. You can be open-minded, depending on your personality. But things do change. That's the bottom line. There's nothing you can do. Hey guys, uh, so what's the impact on the over 40 demographic? Yeah. I mean, there's an impact regardless of what age group you're in, I believe. But I think over 40 people might pay attention a little bit more to these things that the younger generations do. Because, like I said, from personal experience, when I was younger, politics was not, a big deal. It didn't really affect me, or it did affect me. I just didn't think it affected my life. What affected my life was getting money so I can go and party with my friends and go out and get girls. That was my effect in my life. However, I see that younger and younger people are getting involved in this. They are not as, dismissive as I was when I was their age. So that's a good thing. But for people over 40, what are the struggles of Americans over 40? What are your struggles? Anybody care to share? Love to hear what you guys think about it. What are your struggles? If you're over 40, over 50, over 60, what are your struggles, regardless of what kind of government that we have? And I'm talking about, you can say, well, depending on where you live in the world, right? What country you live in the world. Yeah, that's probably right. But since I live in America, let's talk about in America. What are the struggles that Americans over 40 are facing? I believe that our age group is hit the hardest with policy failures, only because we're older. The economic instability, being in middle-aged America and losing a job because of automation, where you work, or possibly outsourcing your job someplace else. Maybe policy shifts happen. How about this one? Healthcare. Healthcare. As you get older, healthcare becomes more important, right? At 20 years old, healthcare is not the most important part in your life because you're healthier. At least most people. I don't want to. Let's not go into examples where you have young people being sick. I know it happens at every age, but really, as a demographic, as a rule of thumb, younger people are healthier than older people. So healthcare for somebody who is older than let's say 20, somebody who's 40, 50, 60 like myself, if you follow this channel, you might know. If not, I'm about 10 months, almost 11 months cancer free, but I went through a year-long of cancer battle. I mean, I was living a pretty healthy life, at least I thought so. I never expected to be diagnosed with cancer, right? Thank God that I had good insurance. Thank God that I was covered, that, all my expenses. And let me tell you something. If you go through a cancer battle, the costs are astronomical. I mean, look, I was diagnosed. I had 2 surgeries. I had chemotherapy, multiple endless tests, CT scans, MRIs, this and that. I mean, go ahead and Google it. And the cost of those things, I probably had at least $250,000, maybe $500,000. I don't know, in healthcare bills, which because of my healthcare and my insurance, I didn't have to pay. But what about the ones that are not as lucky as I am? The rising costs, the lack of real solutions on healthcare. It's very, very real for a lot of older people, much more than younger people, right? Here's another one. What about retirement worries? Social Security is always a political football, Social Security. They all talk about Social Security, but somehow Social Security is always having problems. Why is that? Why is it? Politicians argue about the future. They argue about people in their 40s and their 50s, 60s being stuck dealing with real life, consequences and broken policies. But does anything get better? Think about it. At 60 years old, myself, I have lived through multiple administrations. And has anything really, really changed? And again, depending on who you speak with and which part your interest lies on, you might have different views. But, and I'll be honest with you, my views over the years have changed. I consider myself on one side, but slowly I've changed. And, I believe I'm open minded and independent thinker. I do not like to label myself. I'm an independent thinker who finds interest everywhere, who has interest in a lot of different things, and a lot of things affect my life in a different way. So I can't say that I belong here or there. I can honestly say that after 60 years on this earth and learning, I think it's the average Joe against people that not only crave power, um, they get high. I don't know what term I use. I mean, let's be honest. If you're a billionaire, if you have $1 billion, forget this. If you have $1 million, most Americans, most people worldwide will be very happy to have $1 million. But there's people that have billions. $1 billion is 1,000 millions. Can you imagine having $1,000 million into your bank account? Would you say, "Oh, that's good, that's awesome, I could just live a great life"? Da 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 da. But there's actually people that, billions, trillions almost, some is not enough. So is it about money really, or is it just about a continuous high in having power, and I am up here and everybody else is down here? Is that the case? I mean, what is it? Trying to understand all these people is enough just to drive you crazy, right? And then of course you have the media. I don't know. I mean, I do watch regular television. I do watch the news, but I spend more time on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, reading, watching videos more than actually reading, and getting stuff different, from different people. In fact, I get updates and I get pieces of news way before I see it on television. So I will hear of something sometimes the day before than when I hear it on TV. Sometimes I hear things, actually not sometimes, a lot of times I see videos with pieces of information, news, that never make it to the mainstream media, which is messed up. So what does that tell me? What it tells me is that media shapes the narrative. And unfortunately, most people are prey to that. Older people, I believe, there are much more at fault on this than younger people. They're just so fixated in one way of thinking. And that way of thinking affects everybody. If you have a left wing or a right wing media, they push their own versions of events. So depending on what news source you're watching, you're going to get one side of the story. The same politicians who attack the media, they also rely on the media to craft their message or their image. So I'll give you an example, right? I'm pretty new to this. Sorry, I had to pause. I'm pretty new to this. I got an invite to co-host something. I don't know if I'm ready to do that just yet. So apologies, right? But anyway, so here's an example, right? You have a politician A who goes on CNN. CNN is in everywhere you go. Everywhere you go to a doctor's office, you go to a lawyer's office, you go to the airport, you go to get your oil changed. Most seems to have CNN. And that's probably one of the reasons why a lot of older people only see one narrative. So politician A goes on CNN and, he's like, "I'm here to fight for the working class." Yeah. Then the same politician goes to Fox News and it's like, "Oh, well, we must stop government overreach and help the working class." Same person, different messages, depending on the audience. Does that sound familiar? Have you guys ever witnessed that? I don't know. But the question at the end of the day is, as I started the video, can we believe them? Can we believe the politicians? Or can we believe the media? What can Americans do? What can we do? Do we hold the politicians accountable beyond just voting? And how we do that? Do we demand transparency? Do we stop falling for the same empty rhetoric? Do we support policies that have real impact, not just, quote unquote, slogans? Do we keep voting for the same stuff? Because listen, there are plenty of people who vote for the same stuff, although they're being affected negatively, right? And they complain and they still vote for the same people. Do politicians expect you to believe them? But is the real solution you? Shouldn't you be the final solution? What do you guys think? What do you guys think? I mean, there's just so much out there that, that we can basically discuss. A lot of ways to approach this. Let me just answer my text real quick here. Sorry, guys. I just wanted to answer an email text I got for work. So, like I said, there's just the conversation. I think it should be endless. It should ongoing. It should not stop. The notion of, well, I don't like to talk about this. I don't get involved in politics. Some people are, again, like I said, I recognize it because when I was younger, I had no interest in politics. Really, I could care less. But as you get older, and again, I don't know who's in here. I'd love to see, by the way, if you guys want to share your age, it'd be great. Love to see how many older people we have in this chat and how many younger people we have in this chat. Because a lot of times I do it live and there's younger people as well. And I love to get opinion because as I've said in other videos, I strongly believe older people and younger people have to start coming together and start making fun of one another. And let me tell you, there's blame to go both on this. Older people, they're like, well, when I was younger, I used to do this and blah, 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 blah. And you guys are so easily, manipulated, offended, blah, blah, blah. They're making fun of the younger people, right? And then younger people are like, oh, don't listen to him. He's just an old fool. Really? Let's come together. Look, as someone like myself, who I basically work with younger people, I own a company that in sports, in youth sports. So guess what? I deal with younger people, right? I'm very, very open-minded and I always encourage young people to give me feedback. Hey, what do you think? Maybe because I'm a coach, maybe my coaching background, and I coach by asking questions. I don't just, preach. I ask questions. Like I will ask a player, why are you doing this? Is there another way you can do it? Do you think that, this is the best way? Blah, blah. It's always a question, and there's always a follow-up question. It's never just one question open-ended. It's always a follow-up question. It's always why? Just like when, you were little. If you're little kids, they're always why. They always put you, in a position. It's always why. Well, because and why, and because and why. They always want to know more. They're always curious, which again, young people should be curious and old people should be curious. We should just not accept what everybody says. Don't come on this live and accept what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. Go listen to other people. You have your own thoughts, your own ideas, right? But there are some people that they get so consumed with one person, one channel, one media outlet, and they take everything in, and it's like, there is no sun. Oh, okay, yeah, there's no sun. Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is. There's something out there that's bright, that's shining every single day, right? Don't just accept that there's no sun because XYZ person, XYZ media outlet or politician said, there is no more sun. The sun is gone. No. So you're on this live, you're listening to me. If you enjoy the content that I'm talking about, if you enjoy what I'm saying, awesome. Subscribe, share the live. Help me out here, right? But at the same time, you shouldn't just listen to what I'm saying. That's how humans are. We listen to different things. But some of us choose to only fixate ourselves with one point of view. So let's get back to, again, the video. Let's talk about some other impacts that politics have in people over 40 like myself? Is there an economic impact? Is the job market instability? Over 40 people are competing with younger workers, automation, job security. All these things are, concerns, right? And as you get older, look, my wife has been working for the state for many years. So my wife is not of retirement age yet, but she could very well retire because she's been working with the state for over 35 years. So if she wanted to retire, she could, right? But one of her concerns has always been she's 58 years old. So one of the concerns is, okay, so if I retire, that's great, but then how do I go out and get another job if I want to? Do I have enough money in a retirement pension, in a retirement, wage to live? Because here's some other things as we get older, right? Hopefully, a lot of people here on the channel have somewhat of a 401k or a retirement something, but even a 401k, think about this. If you have a 401k for the last 20 years, for the last 30 years, whatever. And, you have some money stashed away in a 401k. If you're like me, last 4 years, your 401k took a dump. You lost a lot of money in your 401k. I'm not going to argue with you who's to blame. That's not the point. The point is not who's to blame. The point is that the last, few years, your 401k lost money. Okay? But let's say that your 401k didn't lose any money. Let's say that ever since you have it, right, you've made, it's grown. So let's say you got $1 million into your 401k. Well, in 2025, $1 million does not get you what it would get you in 2000, 25 years earlier, 2010, 15 years earlier. Why? Because, hey, everybody, I know everybody says, say hi, how are you? Welcome to the live. It just doesn't get you as much because once again, situations, conditions in your life has made it more difficult for that $1 million to stand up. So $1 million today, 2025, is worth less than $1 million in 2000. Although it's the same amount, it buys you less. Again, who's responsible for this? Well, where do you want to start? Where do you want to start? Where do you want to start? And it seems that, it keeps getting worse. Government is supposed to come in and fix problems or mistakes that a previous government made. We as people are supposed to vote for someone to come in and fix things that maybe the previous administration didn't do well or messed up. But it seems no matter who you vote for, it's the same political garbage. Think about this. The majority, and I challenge you guys. I don't even know. I'm sure if I Google it, I'm going to get the answer. I know I want to pass on to you guys. But go ahead and Google it. Google what's the majority of the people in politics. I don't care if they are in Congress. I don't care if they're in federal government. I don't care if they're a mayor, a senator, a governor, okay? Are they people who in their previous life were, let's say, engineers, or they were, say, utility people, or they were teachers, or they were garbage or sanitation workers, sanitation workers, everyday people? Or are there people mostly that are either lawyers or bankers? Lawyers or bankers. The majority of these people are that. Yes, there are some people, and I believe, and I'm hoping the more everyday people are fed up enough to start getting into government. I am fed up And you know what? I'm going to get into uh, I'm going to get into this to help my community. Unfortunately, most of us can't afford to do that because let's be honest. To run a campaign, it costs money. There's time. It costs money. And most people don't have the luxury of doing that because they got to feed their families. They got to go and work. So you might have a good intention to help, but you can't because you have other responsibilities. But if you're an attorney, if you're a banker with a few years of service who has accumulated some wealth, it's a good segue, it's a good pathway to government. And let's be honest. Here's a question, and I don't mean to get off topic, but how many politicians have gone into government, and you can Google their government salaries, and I'll use the Congress, House, or Senate. You can easily Google their salaries, not a lot. And within 5 years, they're already millionaires. How do you explain that? How do you guys explain that? Love to hear what your answer is. You want examples? AOC, Ocasio-Cortez, from college to bartending to Congress. Net worth? Google it. Go ahead, Google her net worth. Google her net worth. See what you come up with. This person has been in Congress and government. I believe she just got reelected on her second term. Not a lot of years. Very young. So please answer me that question. How is that person's net worth a lot more than your average 40, 50, 60-year-old with a good job? With a good job. Let's say you're a state employee, any state, and you're making some good money. How about a state employee who's making in excess of $100,000? And there's plenty of those. I bet you in the last 4 to 5 to 6 years that Ms. Ocasio has been in government, you have not made the kind of money that she has made. Anyway, I got a little off course here. But again, are these things affecting people over 40? So it's politics and their impact in our lives. What I'm discussing now is basically, wage stagnation. Politicians talk about raising wages. Oh, many middle-aged workers have seen a real increase in our tenure. Meantime, they keep getting raises every year. And there's not, the only ones that are voting for the raises, regardless of the performance, is themselves. We don't have a say in it. If you go to your job and you don't do a good job, okay, you may get fired or you may decrease in salary. And if you're like it, tough. But they never get a decrease in salary. They always have raises. And us that we voted in, we are every politician's boss. They work for us. But we have no say in their raises, regardless of how good or how bad they've done, regardless if they've kept their promises or not. Do these things affect our lives? Do these things have an impact in over 40 people? What do you guys think? I don't know. It's pretty quiet in the chat. Love to hear what you guys think. By the way, please share. Consider subscribing. Helps me build, through the algorithms. So here's another one for you. What about what I just talked about? Retirement insecurity. I basically talked about 401k. Is that enough? Would it be great if you invested, you saved, you grew your nut, you grew your money, but At the same time, inflation and the cost of living, which is, another thing, increased cost of living, right? Cost of living, housing, groceries, healthcare costs, eating out. Forget about getting a return on your savings. If you're a saver these days, yeah, good luck with that. If you still have the mindset of saving money in your bank account, I wish you a lot of luck. I wish you a lot of luck. If you're stuck in that mentality, look, if you got a large amount of cash in the bank, other than having enough money to operate expenses, you get your paycheck and you have a checking account so you can pay your mortgage, your rent, your electricity, your cell phone, your car payment, your insurance, operating expenses, right? Anything over that, if you have money in the bank, I don't have a good word for you other than you need to go and educate and learn. If you're 40, 50, 60 years old, and I know specifically people my age, in fact, a little bit older, that they brag about how much money they got in the bank account. Why? Why would you not have that money someplace to? When I say a bank account, let me clarify that. I meant a savings bank account. A savings bank account where the money just sits there and the bank uses it to make a profit. And by the way, in my previous world, I was a mortgage banker for quite a few years. I did pretty good. Okay. So the bank by law is only required by law to have a certain amount of money from the money that depositors make. So if the bank takes $100,000 today as deposits, they're only allowed to have 10% on it. The other one gets lent out and it's reused to buy things and generate income for the bank. So the banks are making money. They're making a profit through different financial instruments from our money. We put our money there for safety, for security, right? And then they used to give us an interest. They used to give us something for giving them our money. Those days are gone. They don't give you anything anymore. They take your money, they invest it, they make a profit, and they don't give you anything. And in a lot of cases, they punish you. Overdrafts, this, that, every little thing, you get punished. Again, I'm not going to get into situations to discuss, well, I have this kind of account, my bank doesn't charge me any fees, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, I get it. If you're an educated consumer, there's plenty of solutions, but most people are not, unfortunately. The less money people have, the less educated they are. One of the things that I am a big advocate of is young people taking financial courses. My daughter is a senior in Nova University, Southeastern University in South Florida. She's about to graduate in May with a public science degree and go on to do her master's. However, she decided to take this last semester a financial course as well as a marketing course because she has an interest in opening up her own business after she comes out of school. Eventually, she's interested in having her own business in that field, in public science, public health, public science. I think it's public science, right? Whatever. So I was very happy to hear that she said that because I'm a big, strong advocate of young people being taught how to manage their money. Nobody teaches you. When I was younger, nobody taught me how to save and manage my money. There were plenty of people to teach me how to spend my money, but there were not a lot of people who taught me how to manage my money, how to invest my money, how to grow my money. So I'm a big advocate of that. All right, let's move forward. I touched quickly, healthcare struggles. What are the healthcare struggles that people over 40 or 60 could be facing? Rising insurance premiums. I mean, every administration says that, healthcare costs will come down and this and that. They keep increasing. Pre-existing conditions. Many over 40 people dealing with health issues which makes the coverage not as affordable. Medicare uncertainty. Every administration, there's a discussion to reform it, to cut it. Some administrations use that as fear mongering about Medicare. And as you get older, some people, once they retire, they solely depend on Medicare, Social Security and Medicare. There's a lot of people in the world, and even in America, that do not have and not saved. I'm serious. There's a lot of people that cannot even afford to retire. How many times do you guys have gone to Kmart and see like 80-year-olds, greeters, because they can't afford to live on the Social Security or the Medicare? How many times do you guys see that? So the Medicare uncertainty is another, carrot that the politicians dangle or use it as fear-mongering. So-and-so is going to cut Medicare, but we're going to fix it and save it and help it and da-da-da-da. Mental health neglect, economic pressure, job stress. I mean, on and on and on and on. Inflation. There's not enough eggs. For God's sakes, in America, and we can't buy eggs. I just went to Costco a couple of days ago, and there was a sign that could only buy 3 things of eggs. That's it. That was the maximum. You couldn't buy as many eggs as you wanted to. Why? How can now we have eggs in America? I don't know, guys. I don't know. There's just so many things that politics affect our lives, and most people just don't seem to get it. But I like to think that slowly that there's a shift, that people are beginning to realize they're being forced. We have been pushed into a corner, and it's like, okay, there's no more. I can't breathe. You're talking about family and social pressures. Do you have a mom or a dad that you care for? The over 40 people, they just seem to be sandwich generation. You got to balance the care of your kids, and you got to balance the care of your elderly parents. How easy is that? Financially, mentally. How many of you guys work, honestly, seriously, as a family income, both spouses? You have an over $150,000 combined income, and you're still struggling. I don't live in Tennessee, where it's much cheaper. I live in New Jersey. And I feel that everywhere I turn around, somebody's got their hands open like this. Gimme, 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 gimme. Before you know it, every dollar you bring into the house, 30, 40 cents go to the government by way of income tax, retail tax, gas tax, fixing the roads tax, everywhere. And nothing gets done. Like nothing literally gets done. Then you got to try to feed your family. You got to take care of your kids, and you got to take care of your parents because they're aging. No wonder people are depressed. No wonder stress is through the roof. No wonder suicide is going crazy. And you don't think you're being affected by politics as a 40-year-old person? Hello. Hello. How about this one? What about college debt for your kids? My daughter is about to graduate with her first degree from Nova University in May. And to be honest with you, part of me, because now she says that she's looking for her master's degree to schools that are, I didn't know this. That's something new. We didn't have it when I was in college, right? But there's programs that are called hybrid, where you don't have to actually go in the university at all. They're online, or They are hybrid, meaning that most of the year you don't have to go to the to on campus, but then there's a certain time, like 1 month or so, that you actually go there. Well, guess what? The universities that she's applying to are close to home here in New Jersey. So now instead of me having to pay for all expenses in Florida, if she comes back home, I kind of save that. All right. But then, even if you're not in that situation, what about if your kids are just going to college? You know, your rising tuition costs. You got to support your kids. It's not enough, believe me. After 4 years of having a kid in college, and I'm sure many of you guys can, agree with that if you're like me. You're so excited as a family. My kid is going to college, yay! And there's a lot of great universities that you go into this campus. You go to these tours and you're mesmerized. Oh my God, look at this university. It happened to us 4 years ago when we were looking, for our daughter to go to college. My daughter wanted to go to Florida. She likes to surf, she likes the sun, that good stuff. So almost every school she went to visit was in Florida. And you go to the schools and they grab you, oh my God, look at the palm trees. Look how beautiful the campus is. Look all the facilities. Look at the amenities. And you got this and you got that. And what's the VIG? $50,000 a year, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year. University of Miami, when my daughter was looking, was $82,000 a year 4 years ago. I don't know what it's like now. So you try to get a scholarship. Thankfully, my daughter was good enough. She got an academic scholarship, and kind of saved her some money. But even with a scholarship, even with 100% scholarship for tuition and board, and by the way, board, for those of you guys that are about to have kids that go to college, living expenses are more. They whack you more for living on campus than the actual tuition. But the classes itself, they're crazy. When I went to college, talking about 60, remember what I talked about before? Grown-ups talking about the good old days. Well, when I was in college, a college credit was like $200. So for a class that had 3 credits was $600. For a good school, it was $1,000 for the class. Now you're talking about a class and it's like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for one class. So think about it, do the math, right? And again, I don't mean to deviate, but these are all the things that are bothering me. And getting back to the original point of this live, my life is being impacted by politics every single second that I have my eyes open, okay? So look, there is a price for education. Do you need to go to those universities that tuition is $50,000, $60,000, $70,000? Heck, I was a college coach at Widener University. Go ahead, Google it. Widener University in Chester, Pennsylvania, 10 minutes away from the Philadelphia Eagles Stadium. Widener, Widener, Widener University. Check out the tuition for that university. Now, that university, and I don't mean to talk bad about the university because it actually is a really good academic, university. Their tuition and their, to get into the school, the line is around the corner, because they have some great programs. They have an accelerated program to get your master's and, all that good stuff, right? So, but the campus, yeah, not so much. If you get an opportunity, don't look at the pictures that they put online. Go and visit Widener. It's in the middle of ghetto. The university, the campus itself is not a good campus. You go there for academics. If you want to go nursing, science, a very good school, right? But at a price. It's when I left, it was $54,000 a year. True story. I was the soccer coach. One of my players, after the first year, she comes to me and says, Coach Nico, I want you to be the first one to know I'm not coming back next semester. I'm like, oh my God, what happened? What's going on? She was a really good player. What happened? She goes, my parents are not paying for my education. I don't want them to pay for my education. I'm paying on my own. And I just can't afford to stay here with a partial scholarship. She goes, I'm going to go to a 2-year school. I did my research. So it was a nurse major. I'm going to go to do my first 2 years in a 2-year university for a fraction of the cost. And then again, 2-year schools, if you have good enough grades, you can transfer them and go to a 4-year school, the last 2 years of your education. And a lot of junior colleges work with universities, and the tuition is very, very small. Okay, so what am I going with this? At some point, you got to say, is it worth it for a kid and you? Because you're going to subsidize that education. If you don't think you're not, well, unless you're a family who's going to say, hey, don't expect a dime from me because I can't afford it, that's a different story. But most families will help the kids going to school, right? With a million and one things. Gas, insurance, maybe a car payment, living expenses, electricity, cell phone, this, that. Well, at the end of it, the degree you're going to get is worth the debt you're in. And I tell my daughter this all the time. Young people come out of college and they're in debt to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Student loans. Crazy. You don't think that has an impact on you as an over 40 person? Really? Okay. All right. Okay, so here's another one. Oh, this is a good one. Do you think politics has an impact in a over 40 person's life because you have divided families when it comes to your political ideology? You believe one thing, your brother believes something else, your uncle is a different thing, your kids, this, that. You got the divided families to certain degrees where they don't even speak with one another. How about going to work and having different ideologies? Over 40, it affects. How about changing work expectation? Remote work, layoffs, companies reconstructing, middle-aged employees, because at 40, 50 years old, no matter how young you feel, you are a middle-aged person. The more vulnerable than a younger one that comes in. If you are a middle-aged person and you're making XYZ dollars, but you're not really doing that well, they might hire somebody half your age with half your salary. Just saying. Just saying. Do you guys feel that you're only being, like your voice is only being heard, or people come to you only when it's during the election season? Regardless of where you fall, they approach you because they want your vote. And in most cases, votes may not even count. That's a different conversation. Do you feel that way? And all the things that they tell you, just false, empty promises. Tax breaks, whatever, I don't know. Can we do anything about it? Well, one thing I can see myself, that's my personal experience, just like I'm talking, having this conversation here, I see an increasing number of people that either opening up YouTube channels, TikTok accounts, Instagrams, whatever, and they start having conversations. And it all starts from a conversation, because a conversation might grow into something more, into a community. That's why I keep asking here, hey, if you like this live, if you can relate, if you enjoy the content, would appreciate you subscribing, liking, and sharing it. Help me with the algorithm, right? Help grow this community. By having more people get online and start talking about things, what's on your mind, maybe we can grow it and be educated enough where the next election cycle, maybe we can make a difference. I don't know. What do you guys think? Was the outcome of this current election affected by exactly what I'm just talking about. Did more people seek education before they casted a vote this year? Did more people go and vote this year? Were more people aware of election, interference, election, fraud, whatever you want to call it, where they actually went to work in voting centers or whatever they did to protect votes? What do you guys think? Yes, no, maybe? Does that affect your political life after an election? Regardless, because we've lived 60 years old. I've lived through different government entities. Right, left, middle, hard left, hard right, At the end of the day, the conversation here is how do politics impact over 40 people like ourselves? Any thoughts? Love to hear you guys. Any ideas? Any comments? Love to see what everybody has to say. Anyway, that was my live for the day today. One of the things, as I keep saying in all these videos, is I plan on creating more content. One of my goals moving forward for over 40 life, over 60 life in my case, is I like to create more content. I like the fact that the way things are moving forward, I can rely on if something of substance happens, I might get it first from Michael, who's across town with his phone, and he gets on and does a live and gives me a quick update, where by the time the main news media gets there, might be a little later. I like to get different opinions. I've always enjoyed getting different opinions, listening to different points of view, and then making an educated decision. I always enjoyed that. I feel the way social media is going, it gives us that opportunity. Again, we're not going to get into a discussion, social media has ruined things and da-da-da-da. You know what? To a degree, you're right. Social media in the wrong hands is lethal, but also can be a blessing and a tremendous thing in the right hands. It's a matter of how people use it and how people absorb the content. If you're naive, if you're somebody who is easily manipulated, if you're somebody who gets easily brainwashed, yes, it's a bad thing. But if somebody who's open-minded, you can go and watch a million different channels, a million different views, just like you're watching this one. Here Nico, here Mike, here Mary, here Bob, Jane, whatever. Give you different perspectives on the same thing. And then you kind of take that information in and you draw your own conclusion. And maybe you can share in the conversation with comments. And that's how things go. That's what I believe. I believe sharing information, being able to come together and talk different things, it's a good thing. Without being an extremist, without forcing views down somebody's throat by way of physical, verbal, or otherwise abuse. Because there is plenty of media channels that are verbally abusing people. We just don't realize it. The rhetoric that comes out of some people's mouth is shameful. It really is. Nobody has the right to get on and start bashing. You can express your views in a civilized tone, but nobody has the right to go out there and bash people verbally. And there's a lot of people getting paid millions of dollars doing just that, calling people stupid, calling people this, calling people that. Really? Wow. And the worst part is the consumer, the viewer, keeps watching. You being called names, and you keep watching. And you keep watching. Wow. Wow. How does that work? How does that work? Do you sit there in your everyday life, if somebody calls you names, harasses you, bullies you, do you sit there and go back? Hey, you know what, Nico? You know you called me all these names yesterday. I'm back for more. Yeah. I'm back for more. Call me some more. Really? Wow. Not me. Not me. Fool me one, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. I'm not going to allow it. I am not going to allow it for people to manipulate me and hurt me more than once. Unfortunately, my personality has been such where I'm very welcome, very giving to a lot of people. And most of the times, I get hurt. I told this to my daughter. I try to learn from my mistakes. I try to distance people that have, hurt me one way or another. It's not about, forgiving. God bless you. You're forgiven. You think, go ahead. You're out of my world. But I'm not going to forget. I'm going to learn, move forward. God bless you. See you. Go on with your life. But I'm not going to forget. And I'm not going to let you hurt me again. But because of my personality, obviously, I get manipulated. That's the word I want to use. Unfortunately, I get manipulated a lot of times by people that I think are I look for the best in people. I think I have to change my thinking and start differently. You are down here until proven otherwise, as opposed to you're up here until you mess up and slowly go down. I told my daughter that's going to be a very difficult trait to change. Chances are it's going to happen again. It's in the last 5 years, it has happened to me from business perspective. Let's put it this way. In the last 5 years, I have, no, you know what? Let me go 7 years. In the last 7 years, I have manipulated 3 different times by people that I thought were pretty decent. And it hurts financially, emotionally. It hurts. And you learn, business is war. You put systems in place and protections for the next time it won't happen to you. But because of my personality, like I said, I think I give too much when I shouldn't. But it is what it is. I'm trying to do better. But again, all these things are, in my opinion, they're things that impact our lives. The fist stinks from the head. And the government is on top of us. Big Brother is always watching. And the Big Brother is not just the U.S. federal government. The Big Brother is the global Big Brother. You don't think that governments are being influenced by those big global guys? Different conversation, right? Is really the president of any given country in charge of that government? Or are they just being voted in by the puppet masters? Oh, Nico, you're a conspirator. You start spreading conspiracy theories now. Just thinking out loud. Which I hope we're allowed to do. Has there been silencing of the lambs? Who's the lambs? We're the lambs. If you're 40 and over, if you're 30 and over, 20 and over, if you're a teenager, we're the lambs. We're all lambs. But guess what? At least the lambs are protected by the shepherd until they're slaughtered, right? They're protected by the shepherd. They're nurtured, they're fed, they're taken care of, so the shepherd can, take the wool and make things and make money, right? But if the shepherd, his business is to, have the lambs, multiply them, take care of them, and then slaughter them, I don't know. Boy, it sounds a lot like politics to me. The difference between lambs and us is the fact that we as humans can leave. The lambs have a very difficult time leaving the herd. We as humans have the right and the ability to move away. Unfortunately, and again, I don't mean to focus on 40 and over, but that's what we're focusing on. It's a 40 and over conversation, right? That's me. I strongly believe a lot of older people, they think with the mindset of their parents, their grandparents. They've grown up in a certain situation. They're being abused, they're being stolen from, manipulated, brainwashed, and they keep going back over and over and over and over and over. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. So, very good saying, right? Isn't that the same thing with politics? Is there a solution? Because, as I said earlier in the live, if you do a Google search, the majority of people in those positions, in the elected positions, let's not even go the non-elected positions, are bankers and attorneys, lawyers, shysters. When was the last time you went to a lawyer with a good feeling? Regardless if you paid them for a lawsuit to get you money, or if you had to go get a lawyer to defend you from not going to jail. My company was part of an insurance lawsuit from one of the venues that I rent space from to do my events. And that venue was sued because of an accident. Well, if you know anything about lawsuits, because they are brought by attorneys, they sue everybody. In a lawsuit, they sue as many people as possible because they never know from which person they can grab money from. Well, my attorney, to defend me and prove that I should not be in this lawsuit, I was not negligent, okay? I was innocent. It cost me $12,000 for him, not even to go to court, just to do depositions, this, that, $12,000, and a year later, for the lawsuit and the settlement to say, yeah, your company is clear. Go ahead, you're good to go. Bye. See you later. You're innocent. It cost me $12,000. Could I have done that myself? No, because I'm not an attorney. All right. Do you need attorneys? Yes. Are people fearful of attorneys? Yes. But attorneys, as far as I'm concerned, they're leeches. Even when you win, you still lose. Attorneys are like hookers. You pay them, you play. You don't pay them, you don't play. If that's your cup of tea, because it isn't mine. So the government is full of leeches. Bankers, leeches. Attorneys, leeches. Some strong words that I use here. Hope I don't get banned, by the way. That's how I feel about it. There's not enough everyday people in government. And I give you the reason why I think there isn't a lot of people. Because everyday people are busy trying to make a living. They're busy trying to take care of their, families. Because in order to be voted into a government, even the lowest office, you want to go run for mayor. You want to go run for, is there something lower than mayor? I don't even know. It takes time and it takes money to run for any office. Nobody these days, nobody can be voted into any government position without money, without investing some time. Lawyers and bankers know that, and they got money. Now, if you're somebody who's a businessman, if you're somebody who is in business, if you're a doctor, if you're an engineer, if you're anybody other than a lawyer or a banker who has some money and wants to do some good, somebody who can say, you know, I've done pretty good. God has blessed me. I like to give back. Are there more people like that? Are there more people like that that maybe can be voted into government and help us out? And I bet you that, you know, oh, they are, but a lot of them don't want to go through the bashing that they go through from the politicians, the establishment politicians. Politicians are so dirty, they even kill their own. One day you're with us, next day you're not, and we're going to eat you alive. How many examples do you want? Do I have to start naming names? It happens all the time. If you're not with us, you're against us, we're going to eat you alive. And the worst part is that they don't even bash, like, let's say, your record. Like, you know, certain things that you've done in your life, you know, they don't even bash that. They bash, you know, your character. And they go back like years ago. Things that you did like in your teens. When you were 22 years old and you were in college, you smoked weed and you got drunk. Okay. It might have been a bad thing back in the 20s and 40s. But how many of you guys out there have not smoked weed or drank beers or gotten drunk when you were younger? And what does that have to do with your ability to perform a certain job in government? You have built, you're an entrepreneur, you've built a great business, you have wealth, you obviously done something right? To be in that spot. But then they bash you because you smoked weed or you drank beer in your 20s. Not what you accomplished from 20 to 50, 60 years old. Some of the most intelligent people in the world are being bashed right now. And they're doing work. A lot of these people are doing work without getting compensation. And they're being bashed. They're being called stupid by certain people. Some of the smartest people in the world are being called stupid right now by other people. Some people that have, in my opinion, regardless if you like it or not, they have major impact on humanity based on their business and what they've done. Regardless if you approve of their business practices or not, they are contributing to humanity in certain ways. I'm not getting into specifics here because I don't want to get into a debate about certain individuals. You can go ahead and Google some of the stuff that I'm saying, right? Okay? But those people that have done those things, those people that have accumulated wealth are being called stupid by people that don't even have in the little pinky nail the amount of intelligence, experience, or wealth. That's what I'm saying, guys. Every conversation, no matter how you spin it, it affects and impacts our lives as over 40 people. It's like, it almost reminds me of, you know, the old man. He's 80, 90 years old. He's sitting on his rocking chair, you know, on the porch. Pretty much everybody in his generation has left, you know, they're passed away. And he goes on to give you all this wisdom that's unchecked because we're going back in an era when there was no Google, there was no way to fact check. He could say whatever he wants because there's no way to fact check that individual. But in today's world, in today's society, you can fact check pretty much anything if you search, if you do the work, if you use common sense. You can fact check pretty much anything. But some of the worst ones, over 40 people, are the ones that are so close-minded, they have such blinders on, that, you know the old saying, cut your nose to spite your face. I mean, come on. When you have extremes that, you know what, I'm sorry to, I have to say this. One of the things that I hate the most is when people look at you straight in the face with a serious, passionate, aggressive look in their face. They're lying to you, and they expect you to believe them because they're so immersed in their own lies that they believe. They'll tell you they're God, and they believe it. And what do you do about it? A lot of people believe these people. A lot of liars are so good and passionate in their lies because they are living a lie. They're so good at manipulating the over 40 crowd, the over 20 crowd, because they got their things everywhere. They manipulate everybody. Different ways to manipulate a 20-year-old, different ways to manipulate a 40-year-old, different fear mongering for 20-year-old because of their interest and where they're at their life than a 40, 50, 60-year-old. But they are manipulating and they are believing their own lies. But look, just because you believe your own lie, just because you're so passionate about your own lie, it doesn't mean that it makes it truth. It doesn't mean that the more you say a lie, it's going to become a truth. I'm sorry, it isn't. It's up to us as common sense people to do our due diligence, to seek, to learn, to educate ourselves, and then make an educated decision. Here's my other one. What can I possibly do? I'm just a one person. What can I possibly do? If everybody thought that way, human race would stop to exist. What can you do? What can I do? What can Nico do? I'm doing it right now, guys. I am doing it right now. I have made a conscious effort for many, many years. I've chosen to, just watch, observe, learn this, that, I have been part of social media, for the last, gradually, right? I want to say for at least 15 to 18 years, I have been part of social media. Most of it is used, originally was used, look, back in the early days of Facebook, it was amazing to be able to reconnect with high school people, with people that you haven't seen in years, family, friends in other continents or what have you, right? Then it was slowly started, being used and transforming into a business because, systems were put in place, but now you could use social media to promote your business. And I've done this. I've promoted my business over the years on social media, different outlets of media. I have learned a lot. I'm self-taught on marketing. I'm still learning every day. I don't even know, I know just a little bit. And I've used that to my benefit. I believe that if you're a small business owner myself, if you don't use social media, you're missing a big opportunity, right? But now I'm coming to a point where I'm like, what can we do to help ourselves beyond what I just described? So as I said earlier, well, you can. Everybody can, you can open up a YouTube channel, a TikTok channel, an Instagram, this, that, whatever, and create a conversation. What about if you're the person who doesn't like to be in front of the camera, who doesn't like to talk, who has a hard time speaking this and that? Well, you can put your thoughts down, write them down, type them in the privacy of your own home, of your own office, without, being in front of a camera. Maybe open up a blog. It's not that difficult. It's not that expensive. You can get, a URL. Married Talks. Over 40 thoughts, whatever you want to name it. And every day start typing your thoughts, your ideas, instead of talking. If you don't want to put yourself in the camera and you don't like to type, well, guess what? You can get in front of a mic and talk without it having a person. Just talk and post it. If you don't like to talk, if you're not good at talking, no problem. Write it down, start typing, create content, and post it on a blog. Start sharing the blog. Again, this is the things that, in my opinion, I wonder if you guys can help me. I don't mean to, jump off. I'm getting invites to co-host things. Does anybody here know what they are? What happens if I click yes? What happens? Am I taken out of my live and going to that person's live? Does anybody know? Love to hear. Actually, if you guys don't know, I'm going to Google it. That's what we do. Older people, we Google a lot. So, anyways, I was saying, and I lost my train of thought now by stopping that. I gave a lot of ideas. I think that's what each and every one can do at the very least, by way of opening up a social media channel and communicating, talking, putting your thoughts out there. If you're somebody who likes to listen, that's not a bad thing either. Go from different places and listen, form your opinions. Okay? But I think being able to, having the freedom to speak and give your opinions is a good start. It's a good start. What can I do? That's what you can do. Share your ideas, share your thoughts. Freedom of speech. Other countries don't have that. We're allowed to share our ideas. We're allowed to share our thoughts, regardless what some may want to believe us. There's calls all the time to shut people down because they don't agree with your views or your ideas under the misinformation label. Anyway, this is what I got for you. I appreciate your time. I've been here for about an hour and 20 minutes or so. I plan on keep coming back and creating lives and talking about. Hope to see you guys on, my lives. Hope to see you guys sharing comments and thoughts and ideas, creating a dialogue, and, take it from there. So for those of you guys that are grinding the end of the week, have a great, good Friday afternoon. Have a great weekend. Who knows? I might see you over the weekend. I might do a live over the weekend. And let's keep growing this community. All right? I'm done, guys. Love you. I'll see you on the next one.